Like my body was just rejecting that experience.
And let's talk about boyfriend air. Have you guys heard of that term?
Boyfriend air?
Boyfriend air?
No.
Because I was talking to someone about this the other day who said, I just feel like I'm not as hot as I used to be, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, you've been in a long-term relationship. You might have boyfriend air.
Welcome to Pelvic POV with your hosts and doctors of physical therapy, Amanda Neary and Hannah Meyer.
Hey, pelvic freaks. Welcome back to another episode of Pelvic POV.
Where you're freaks for us and we're freaks for your pelvis, baby.
We are. I didn't even know how to react to that.
I was like looking down like, ooh.
You were like really into it.
Yeah.
We're halfway through January.
What the hell?
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, it's your least favorite month.
It's my least favorite month. If you've listened to our other episodes, you know this about me. I think it's the darkest, longest, coldest month. And I just get a little sad. I don't know.
And I love it because I like using it to set my goals and intentions and manifestations. And in the winter every year, I watch a new season of Love Island. And I do it in January because it puts me in the summer mindset and it gets me out of my winter funk. And I'm watching Love Island Australia season 6 right now. And it's awesome.
That's a nice ritual because it gives you a reason to be excited about January.
Mm-hmm.
I need something like that. Hannah came in today and I was like kind of in tears. And I was just like, sorry if I start crying. I'm in a weird mood. And I think it's just been like an off mental health month. And I figured that's a good thing to talk about because we need to talk about mental health. And it's okay if it comes and goes.
It is.
The winter is usually when my anxiety will peak and like give me the saddies because the sads.
I like it.
The saddies.
You give them a little name.
Give her a little name.
No, it's probably a man. Be real. The saddies.
A woman.
Not a woman.
Never.
That's not a woman.
Not a woman.
We'll call them the saddies.
We'll call them the saddies. Yeah, I feel like, I don't know about you guys, but I have had anxiety my whole life. And usually in like the more uppity, fun months, it's still there, but it almost acts like a little motivator. And I'm friends with it and it keeps me going. And I've learned to become friends with my anxiety. And in the winter, when things calm down, I think that's when I really start to feel it more in a negative way. And yeah, I think it's important to just address that. And now I'm considering going back on a little medication, which sometimes we need them.
Ain't nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, the winter months are, I feel like, the big time for that like seasonal depression to kick in. You don't get as much vitamin D.
Yeah.
Ain't getting that vitamin D both ways. You're in the house more.
Yeah.
You can't go out to the bars as much. You don't want to go out. You don't want to go to concerts. It's just like, it's too cold. We live in Chicago.
Yeah.
And then in the summer, you're like constantly wanting to do things. In Chicago, the summer, if you guys don't live in Chicago or don't know, Chicago summers fucking eat. All right.
So good.
They eat because we're so cold and hibernating. We hibernate. We're like bears. We hibernate in the winter. Okay. And then we come out in the summer and we're like, and we do everything that we can possibly do because we got to squeeze it all in before our hibernation comes. So that's one reason why the saddies are coming back to town is because we're hibernating.
Yeah. I think sometimes when I have a really busy summer, it makes it worse in the winter too. When I have a busier summer, I am overstimulated for a lot of it. And my body like finally has time to react to that in the winter. And I don't think I'm as much of a like be out and about person as I love to be. And I just like kind of am a yes man and say yes to a lot of things.
You do. You really do.
Yeah. And I want to be better at it, but something about anxiety is that we don't like to be alone with our own thoughts because our minds are always racing. So when people offer me an alternative and a plan, I'm like, oh, I would so much rather do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I end up loving it and having fun and all that. But when things are slower, then I'm like, just I have time to feel it all. I don't know. So I feel like all of that hit me this week. And January is usually when that happens. And I was just talking to my therapist about it. And it's like different every year. But this year I'm like really feeling it. Just like thinking back on 2024 because we had such an amazing, like adventurous, fun year. And there were so many changes in my life. I'm like, okay, now I'm sitting with all of that. And it is a lot.
What should we do to help with your anxiety? What do you think?
This helps. I love our pod.
Yeah, talking about it.
Talking about it helps. I love therapy. We talked about getting sushi later, and that sounds lovely.
Yeah, we're going to go get sushi and a cocktail, probably a dirty martini because it's in for 2025. But we are going to game plan some more episodes for 2025, a business meeting at sushi tonight.
Yeah, we're excited to plan some really awesome content for you guys this year and start filming it all.
And if you guys have anything you want us to talk about, please send it in. We already have a few that we were going to address today, but maybe we're going to save it to another episode because we have new plans today.
Yeah, we have new plans today. We're going to talk about, before we talk about our other topic, everyone, if you haven't been on our online shop for our certified pelvic freak merch, get on there. It is www.pelvicpov.co, just co, no com.
Not com. It was already taken.
It was taken.
Those freaks.
We're going to work on that one.
Yeah, what the hell? But pelvicpov.co is a little bit more slay. It's like edgy and like cute.
It's cutesy girly pop. And I like it. But our merch is freaking awesome. And I'm so excited for mine to get here so I can wear it while we film the pod.
We got our little like crop tops. We got our hat, our pelvic freak hat. We got our like oversized tees for people that don't like the cropped look.
And we got some magnets and stickers, just some ways you can support the pod if you're like, I don't want a shirt, but I love those guys.
I love those freaks.
I love those freaks. You can just buy a little sticker. That's great.
Put it on your little laptop.
Yeah, check it out. See what you think. If there's something you really want us to make for merch, let us know. We can brainstorm for our next little droppy drop.
Which we will have a drop in about a month or so.
Maybe sooner than you think.
Maybe some little holiday that's coming around the corner that you might want some little bit of merch from us for.
Yes.
Preparatory. Just think about it.
Something with hearts.
Yeah, not to give it away too much. Whoa.
That was a crazy laugh.
That was a new sound from you.
Sorry, that was kind of giving SpongeBob.
It was.
I can't even do it
again.
No, that was wild.
Skiing. That's my new thing.
We found that Hannah struggles to say words like skiing or peeing, where you have to say a word that ends in E and then add an ing at the end. And it just becomes like a skeen or peen for her. So we're having a little bit of speech therapy on the pod.
Because I said it on the podcast. I was talking about peen. And then like last night, someone was like, oh, we want to go on a ski trip. And I was like, oh, like I'm not really good at skiing. They were like, skiing?
What's skiing?
So that's a new thing.
We'll work on it. I pick up on little things I do vocally that I'm like, oh, I should try to not do that all the time on the podcast. Who knows?
Like what?
I don't know. I'm trying to think now, but sometimes like right after you finish saying something, I just say something right away and it makes editing hard if I want to like crop something out or whatnot.
Oh, I do this too much. Like we don't. It's like you're talking. I'm just like, yeah, I agree. It's like, shut the fuck up.
Yeah, fucking freak. All right, should we get into the meat and potatoes?
Yeah.
My new favorite saying.
The meats and potatoes.
The meats and potatoes.
I was going to talk about what happened to me when I drove home for the holidays because I didn't get to tell the freaks about that experience.
Yeah, you
should I tell them?
Yeah, you should tell them.
So this is actually our first episode filming in 2025, although this is the January 15th, 16th episode. Who cares? It's January.
It's January.
But this is our first episode filming in 2025. So me and Amanda are just getting back from holidays. So I drove home for the holidays. I drove home to Kentucky. And one thing about me is every time I go home, I have to make an entrance. And it's something stupid every single time. This time, I was driving home in my little car and I was blaring my pole dancing performance playlist. And I was just like imagining me dancing to like these sexy songs. So I was listening to Don't Ya by Pussycat Dolls. And I was literally like blaring the sound. My cat's like in the backseat of my car, like meowing. And I'm just like, don't you wish your girlfriend was hot like me? And I'm driving in my little car. And then my car just starts to go like, and like slowly comes to a stop. And I was like, what the fuck? My car just broke down. So I call my stepdad and I'm like, well, I missed Christmas Eve, by the way, because of this. I was like, well, my freaking car just broke down on the interstate. And he was like, well, how did it just break down? Check your gas gauge. And I was like, oh shit. I literally ran out of gas like a freaking stupid idiot.
Oh my God.
The most I'm just a girl thing ever. Like I completely forgot about like the fact that you have to fill your car up with gas.
That's a tough one to forget.
Because I'd be living in Chicago and I don't be needing to drive. So then I freaking start driving and it's like, oh yeah, you need gas to go. You don't just go on your own thing. A little needy. So I called the non-emergency police hotline and they came and picked me up and took me to the gas station. And then it was a nice way to spend Christmas Eve. And then I finally got home
Oh my God.
11 o'clock at night.
Wow. Yeah, I will say in my new car, I got a new car in 2023.
I like your car.
I love my car. But in my old car, it was just so easy to see my gas gauge. Like I never would have forgotten.
Have you ever forgotten?
No, I never have.
Oh, cool.
But in my new car, I would if it didn't yell at me. So it will tell me like you're low on gas, find a gas station. I'm like, holy shit, I have 50 miles left. I never would have known.
That could have happened if I wasn't blaring Pussycat Dolls for like an hour. Like I completely just, I couldn't hear it.
Honestly, it's worth it. You were in the mood. You were in the zone.
I didn't need to go to Christmas Eve anyways.
It's
Yeah,
overrated.
it's fine.
I'm not a big holiday person, so I'm with you on that. Yeah.
We both, holidays are a little bit stressful.
Yeah.
The older I get why people complain about them. We're going to put a trigger warning at the beginning of this episode before we get into the main content because we may mention sexual trauma and we're going to talk about the subject of pain with intercourse or pain with penetration. So if that is something that is uncomfortable for you to hear or you're not ready to talk about right now, we just wanted to put that out there for you.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, what are we going to talk about today?
Okay, so today we want to talk about, this is a question that our patients will ask us a lot when they come in for painful sex symptoms or just any like intimacy issues that may be pelvic floor related. And it's when to differentiate whether pelvic pain is coming from a place of true pelvic floor dysfunction or a place of lack of desire, low libido, just not being into it. And I think that's a really important distinction that we make in pelvic floor therapy. So I figured that would be a really good topic for today. So how to know whether you're just not into it or if it's a pelvic floor thing. And there's layers to both options on this too. I will just start by saying it can be really tricky to tell in initial treatment sessions if it is more of a desire or libido issue. And that's also just because we only have an hour with our patients. So for those first few sessions, I mean, we have to like build rapport, get the whole picture. We want to get the entire panel of pelvic health. We're not just focused on that entry pain on that first session. We want to see all of those physical factors that might be contributing. So sometimes it takes a few sessions to kind of get to the bottom of where that root cause is. Do you have a tried and tested approach that gets you there?
I think in the first session that people come in, usually we focus more, like we're physical therapists. So we focus more on like the physical manifestation of your pain. So we do our internal assessment, but we also do a lot of questions and it's your first time getting to know us. So we might not be on that level to where like, oh, let me like learn more about your relationship or your sexuality or like who you are as a person. That comes deeper into treatments. So I'll have people that I've been treating for a long time. I mean, I could give so many examples, but I could have people that I've been treating for a long time for one thing, and it's not even pain with intercourse. It's just urinary leakage. And then we just get to know each other over time. And then we start to, and maybe we're not making progress on your urinary leakage. And then we kind of shift perspectives and we start talking about your sex life. And I'm like, oh, maybe this is what we need to be focusing on. And this might actually help your urinary symptoms. And you don't know that they're both impacting each other. Because we say, for example, stress incontinence, a lot of strengthening, a lot of strengthening. I think I hit a wall with some of my stress incontinence people because there's way more that we could look into rather than just strengthening. And maybe we don't talk about sex and intercourse enough with those patients with like urinary leakage.
Yeah.
Which is kind of crazy.
That's a really good point. I mean, it's hard because if someone comes in with a chief complaint of a urinary or bowel issue.
And it's like, why are you asking me about my sex life?
Yeah, we get a lot of that. So the way we approach the subjective assessment, we have screening questions for every like area of pelvic floor function. But at that initial session, that doesn't automatically mean a patient's ready to share that information.
Sometimes it is. Sometimes people are super open and comfortable and ready.
Sometimes, and that's awesome.
Sometimes takes a while.
But even with patients who come in for painful penetration. So for example, one condition we treat is vaginismus, which is entry pain, but it's actually a reflexive response of the muscles of the vagina or the pelvic floor to that entry stimulus. And it can be a learned response. It can be a trauma response. It can be something that seemingly came up out of nowhere, but it's painful entry in that way. We treat this a lot. And even getting to the root of where that came from can take sessions and sessions. We're not always getting to that on day one.
That's the biggest thing. People are like, why am I feeling this? Yeah. Why do I have this pain? Why am I like, this has never been a thing for me before. Why am I having pain with sex now? Or why does it hurt when you like press on that trigger point internally? And then we can start, maybe it's first session, maybe it's later on, but we can be like, well, tell me a little bit of your history when it comes to sex. Anything that happened, a change wise, like a new partner and you're getting like yeast infections all the time now. What's going on with that? And then now you have like pelvic pain or like now you're having pain with sex, or like maybe you have like one instant where you got like an STD from someone and then like months later you have a new partner now and now you're having pain with sex. Well, what if like you're having this reserve with this new partner now because your last situationship, you got an STD and now it's like, well, now I'm scared to be intimate with someone. Like, am I going to get another infection? How do I trust this person? And then that can be a physical manifestation. Not saying that that's the only thing causing it, but it could be a contributor. So there's all of these other external factors that could play a role, which we don't get to see first session.
That's a really good point too, because I have patients who will come in and say, I'm in the healthiest relationship. I have an amazing partner, but I have this painful sex. And after a while of treating it, maybe we'll hit a point where they're comfortable talking more about past partners. And then we get into how that could be a trauma response from a previous situation. Or if it's just with this partner, is it a physical barrier? Is it a position? Everyone has different anatomy. Like sometimes two puzzle pieces don't fit together the same way, and it could be a literal physical thing. So that's when we talk about things like the O-nut, which can help with deeper penetrative pain and things that make sex a little more shallow but feel good for both partners. There's all these different avenues we take.
I think what's really cool about coming into PT with us is that since we do have our hour-long sessions and we have so much time to get to know you, that we can treat you on a whole nother level. Because like we can treat your pain symptoms, but like let's try to figure out how to keep that away and not let it come back. Or if it were to come back, you could kind of run through what we did in PT to figure out why that is coming back again and try to keep it away too.
Yeah. We have so many different tools that we try to equip you with. So we have our like PT tools, right? So if it is a physical manifestation due to like a painful trigger point or something, we have our pre-sex routine, our exercises that you can use when things pop up here and there, any tools that we prescribe, things like that. But then we also have the tool of trying to recognize where it's coming from and knowing your resource available for that. So if we truly get to a place where a patient thinks that maybe there is a psychosocial component to this, whether it's like a side effect from a medication that's reducing libido, not being comfortable having conversations with their partner about this pain, or if they like I've had patients come to the realization that they're maybe not as into sex with their partner as they want to be. Things like that, we will typically refer out to talk therapy. we've talked about how much we collaborate with sex therapists and couples therapists and just standard talk therapists as well. But just so patients have an understanding of like, okay, this symptom is something I would see a pelvic floor therapist for. But maybe if I'm recognizing that it might be more psychosocial or more of a communication thing, maybe that's something that I explore with my therapist too, because they equipped me with that.
Yeah. So the topic of this discussion is, okay, is this pain that I'm having due to pelvic floor dysfunction with my muscles, or is it because I don't like my partner? And is that why I'm not enjoying sex? Or maybe both.
Yeah. And I can speak from experience and say, I've had that before where not everyone's ready to make major life changes at every moment of their life. I haven't been in the past, but I have definitely recognized that like I'm a pretty sexual person. I really enjoy having intimate time with my partner. And I've been in relationships where I lost that. And it wasn't necessarily one thing where I was like, oh, I actually just hate this guy. It was like, maybe we didn't communicate well about our sexual preferences. And that like had this domino effect. I'm like, what word am I looking for? That eventually led to maybe us just not being that compatible. And that's okay. But it took me a long time to realize that in that instance that I'm like, and I remember during this relationship, I actually asked my gyno, I was like, I am having some painful sex. And this is, I think I talked about it in our endometriosis episode, how she was like, maybe you have endo. And I was like, I've never had this before. It's not like a standard symptom for me. And then when I eventually ended that relationship, it was gone. And I'm like, yeah, that was just partner specific at that point.
You know what's crazy too is that happened to me specifically with yeast infections and UTIs.
Yeah.
Because that can also be a partner thing too, guys. Sadly, not all the time, but if you're having like chronic yeast infections every single time you have sex with your partner, or a UTI every single time you have sex with your partner, sometimes maybe that partner might not be great for you and your body can be physically rejecting this person.
Let's talk about that more. Physical rejection of a partner. Because
your body will tell you when someone is not for you.
Yeah, for you, it was yeast infections and UTIs. For me, it was like weight gain and acne. Like my body was just rejecting that experience.
And let's talk about boyfriend air. Have you guys heard of that term?
Boyfriend air?
Boyfriend air?
No.
Because I was talking to someone about this the other day who said, oh, I just feel like I'm not as hot as I used to be, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, you've been in a long-term relationship. You might have boyfriend air. And I was saying it kind of like jokingly. And she was like, what is boyfriend air? And it's like when you're been in such a long relationship that you literally like, the way I looked at the end of my last relationship was so terrible. Like I didn't like my hair. What the frack was I doing? Like I didn't take any time to prioritize myself. Like I wouldn't ever like get ready, blah, blah, blah. I was like really comfortable in my relationship, which I think there's a difference between being comfortable versus just like when you're with the wrong person and it can like you just start to look different.
Yes.
Like you can still get comfortable in a relationship and maybe like not care as much about like dressing up or something like that. That's different. Like that's just being in a long-term relationship, being comfortable with your partner. That's great. You probably still take the time to like look hot and get dressed up. But when you're with a partner you don't like, it literally will change how you look and feel about yourself, especially if it's long term, because you're not going to see it right away. It's going to take maybe a year of being mistreated by this person over and over again, and the toll that takes on your body, on your confidence. And it could be like very minuscule little changes over time. Mm-hmm. And it might not even be your partner being like, I hate you, you're a bitch, like being verbally abusive or something like that to you. It could just be like instances of like, oh, I didn't like that. You said that. I'm not going to bring it up. Or I'm not really trusting you right now. You've been being like sketchy, and like little things they do to start making you question yourself.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Has anyone been in that experience before? Because I have.
I didn't. So boyfriend air specifically, the term comes from like you're breathing in their air around you. And so you develop, like, where does the air
I think that's what it,
okay.
yeah.
Because
like
I've
you have
definitely
boyfriend
like,
air.
I know the concept, of course, because
Yeah.
I've had that happen too. But I just didn't know the term boyfriend air.
Yeah.
But yeah, absolutely. I feel like a lot more people had that experience than they even have recognized.
It's like a joke
themselves.
online.
Yeah, it's a joke because a lot of people have been in the wrong relationship before, and hindsight is always 20/20. And this is why I keep a journal, because after that relationship, when you're like, oh, duh, I was treated this, and this way. And now I can recognize that because I have this clear vision. Write that down and make your list. And people make fun of this all the time. They're like, you need a checklist when you date, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, I have non-negotiables for how I want to be treated. And I have standards. And that's going to make me find a better life partner than someone who doesn't. Or even me 3 years ago who didn't. And I was settling for things that I didn't want in a partner. And then I had painful sex. So yeah.
Exactly.
Boyfriend error.
Boyfriend error, dude. And this is why the breakup glow up is such a real thing, because when you're in a toxic situation where you don't like your partner, or maybe you don't know that you don't like your partner because you've just been with this person for so freaking long and you're just starting to like, you start to let them get away with things more.
Mm-hmm.
You're
more lenient.
You're more lenient. You don't make as many boundaries. You've just been with this person for so long.
You make excuses for them.
Mm-hmm. And then whatever, you get out of this toxic ass relationship and then you're making boundaries for yourself. You're improving yourself. You're not like letting some man drag you. Okay.
Out for 2025. Don't let men drag you.
And it's like, no wonder you're freaking glowing up, dude. No wonder it's a thing. When you're in like a good relationship, it shouldn't make you feel, I don't know. You should feel hot still. Mm-hmm. You should still feel like a baddie.
I always monitor myself now with like, how am I showing up in other ways? And is it changing when I'm with someone? Because in my last long-term relationship, I think I like maybe posted on social media like a few times a year, wasn't really active on my stories. Also wasn't like an activist on my social media. And I feel really passionately about like advocating for what's right and things I believe in. And I just always like had this fear about how I'd be perceived by like him or his friends or something. And I'm not like speaking to his character at all in that like we weren't right for each other, but I still think he's a good person. But I just didn't feel like myself. And that's the gist I'm making. And now I'm like, my true self wants to frickin' be online.
And you're going to shine.
People make jokes and they're like, people that post a lot aren't happy. I'm like, if you see me stop posting, call and check in on me because I fucking love posting on social media. And I just like photos and like seeing photos of people and being online sometimes. Like, sure, every once in a while I need a mental health break. That's normal. But like me at my core, I like Instagram. I don't know. So now I monitor that. I'm like, am I posting less? Am I like self-conscious about how this will be perceived?
Why am I posting less? Is it because I'm, whatever you just said, self-conscious and worried about how I'm being perceived? Or am I having the friggin' time of my life and I'm just freaking balling?
I'm too busy. Yeah. There's times like that too. And sometimes I'm like, I'm busy and I'm freaking hot and I want to post that. Mm-hmm. That's fun.
Yeah. This kind of got into like a little side rant, but like,
I think
it is important to talk about like in terms of relationships when you're trying to decide like, okay, I'm having painless sex and also like, what's my situation with my partner? Like you can kind of look at how you are feeling, maybe not even with sex in the picture. Mm-hmm. Take that out of the picture. How are you feeling in your relationship outside of intimacy and sexual relations with your partner? Mm-hmm. Do you have that boyfriend air? Do you have that toxic ass boyfriend air?
I think this is where it gets tricky for us because we're not talk therapists at the end of the day. We do screen for psychosocial factors so we can refer out, but we also spend a lot of time with our patients. So the more comfortable people get with us, the more we learn about their relationships and can flag this stuff. So while we're not going to treat that symptom or that struggle, we can definitely flag it and advise on where to find help for that. That is something we're trained to do. Pelvic floor PT. It's still a great place to start.
We refer out all the time and we have some really good connections. Like we are always meeting people through like even just what we do outside of work. We meet sex therapists or like people in the healthcare community or like the sexual health community that we're constantly networking with to have a great resource offering for you guys.
Yeah.
If you're our patients and, you know, if you're a freak, pelvic freak.
Like
Lately, I've just been calling you guys freaks instead of pelvic freaks.
You know what we mean and that we love you.
You know what I mean? Or if you're just a freak.
I love this episode.
I'm a freak, yeah.
I'm a freak. We should have a song that we create. That's our
Damn,
outro.
should we?
I'm a freak for your pelvic.
Oh, God.
I'm a freak for your pelvic.
We have too many outtakes of us singing. They hate it. No, they love it.
Do you guys hate it or love it?
They love it.
Because I don't think we're going to stop.
Yeah,
We should do a Patreon outtake reel that's just our songs.
for real.
And it's like a freaking 20-minute video of all of our
It's
songs.
long. The amount that I have to crop out, guys, is hilarious.
It is good.
But yeah, so I don't want you guys to think of it like a blanket statement. Blanket statement.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Like blanket? Like I lay on the ground?
Like you put a blanket over it.
Mm. Also, lay on the ground? Why did I say that?
Only use blankets on the ground. Blanket
None of
like
these
on the floor.
None of these blankets just laying on the ground. What was I saying? Oh, we don't want to make it like, I know we said it kind of like a blanket statement. Like, am I having pain with intercourse because of my pelvic floor dysfunction or because I don't like my partner? This could be both. Like we said, a lot of things mentally sorry, I just laughed a little bit because Amanda just pointed at me like really hard. It was funny.
I was like, yeah, that's a good point.
She's like, yeah, keep going. But mental health things, which is good. We talked about mental health today at the beginning of this outro, can have like physical manifestations of pain centers in your body.
Absolutely. They are not mutually exclusive, and there's a lot of nuance in this area. So I like what you said. It's not a blanket statement to say it has to be one or the other, but these are some differentiating factors between the two.
Yep.
Yeah.
I feel like that was
Ask
good.
us a question, guys. We want more questions in 2025. You can, when you go to buy your merch, you can join our newsletter, and you can also submit a question in our link tree in our bio on social media. So make sure you're following us at Pelvic POV.
And go to pelvicpov.co to look at our new freaking website that we just freaking created on our freaking own.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. It took me 3 months to make my first website for like the clinic. And we did this one in 2 business days. So it was a lot. It was a grind. So please at least go appreciate it, if anything.
Go appreciate our first website, because we're going to have bigger and better ones eventually. But we have our merch out there for you, and be on the lookout for a new drop coming up for this Valentine's Day season that we're working on just for you, pelvic freaks.
Pelvic freaks. All right. Bye, pelvic freaks.
Bye, pelvic freaks.